Hello. So today we're going to look at PHP in game software development. I'm Areva, as you know. So first of all, let's look at the game industry. Many persons really look at the game industry like there's nothing there, or people gamers are not really, game developers are not really making something of it. But the total opposite is true. You see, the game industry in 2020 was seen to be about $155 billion. It was able to produce that amount of revenue. It's expected that in 2026, it's going to bring out double that amount, and that's like 321 billion. In comparison, the music industry is just 25.9 billion, and if you estimate it to what it's going to be, project to what it's going to be in the next coming years, to be a paltry amount compared to the game industry. Now, we're looking at gamers like people who produce games. We're looking at it as probably something less, but the movie industry and the music industry combined is less than that of the gaming industry. But there are several ways we are able to develop software in, um, in gaming softwares. There are several ways we're able to develop these softwares. So why do we need to use PHP? But funny enough, PHP is not like the best option to make um, mobile games or browser games or things like that. But what if you've already learned PHP and you're already a back-end server and probably you want to make um, browser extension, browser games and stuff like that? Back then, well, they were always using PHP for browser games. PHP was like a major part of browser games. So what changed? Let's see, newer innovations came up and PHP seemed to have moved to the back. But surprisingly, PHP is now having newer aspects of it. You see, there are more persons using PHP now. PHP is now having way more uses, way more advanced aspects of it. Surprisingly, even AI as early as 2002 was being developed using PHP. And today we have a method, there is a method of using neural networks with PHP. So PHP is not just for server side anymore, it's now having way more applications. It's very good for browser games because it does afford more flexibility than many other programming languages in the same category. PHP is object oriented. So since if you already know PHP and you already know object oriented programming styles, you don't really need to go and learn another language now to start working with maybe apps. Let's say you are an educator and you want to build a simple game that would help students understand things more or better, or you just need a game that has educational insights, you could aspects to it or insights to it. You could simply use PHP to do so. Now there are frameworks that are dedicated to making gaming production of games easier, especially PHP. And now that's where using PHP now has a certain advantage. I won't say it's an advantage over others, but the fact that you do it and it will work comfortably if you already know PHP. One other thing is that PHP is very simple to know, very simple to learn. Most persons are really upset at PHP sometimes because we could compare PHP and Python when it comes to simplicity of learning syntax and, and structure. Let's look at the different frameworks of PHP that could be used for games. We could use the Yi framework, we could use Kohan framework, Wana framework, or Code Igniter. But one of my favorites is Cake PHP. And when it comes to Cake PHP, reason why it's my favorite is that it tends to be able to do a lot. Let's look at the video of something of a game currently on Google Play Store. You could go try it. It's called My Big Shop. Okay. Now, because it's called Cake PHP, maybe that's the reason why they decided to make a Big Shop um, game of sorts. So let's just watch what it looks like and You can see for yourself what it's able to do. Okay, so that's an example of a gaming software that could be made with PHP. Now, why would we decide to make games that look like this instead of HD games that most persons like? HD games like PUBG, um, maybe games, football games, real football, things like that. Why would we decide to make just a little game like this with more like touch buttons, you simply touch things and this it looks simple, simplistic. But the problem thing is that more persons play this type of games than HD games. HD games are usually played by young ones, teenagers, and maybe adults are already addicted to playing those games and have that mindset of, oh, they love this HD games. But most persons, even within that category, still play these types of games, normal 2D games that are meant to incite the brain or just for fun sake. See, adults, I know my mom does play Candy Crush. So games like that could be made using PHP and it could be quite simple since you simply do it on the server. But Cake PHP does not just work on the server. You can actually load a game almost like the way we do Corvana. Now, how do you start your journey, especially on Cake PHP? The first thing, it's not just Cake PHP, you could use others, but I'm using Cake PHP throughout this to explain what we're doing. So the first thing to do is to learn PHP. PHP is quite easy to learn. Then you choose a framework. The easiest think of is using Kick PHP. I've tried it, and though I've not gotten to the end of it, I've not produced my own game, but I'm working on it. So once you're done with that, next thing you do is study tutorials. Here's a playlist for Kick PHP. Then design your own game as you study. That's what I'm currently doing, and then you can build your game once you get the grasp of all the core ideas. Now let's look at it step-by-step guide to using PHP. Now, this is mostly for persons with knowledge of PHP or general knowledge of any object-oriented programming language, syntax, and method. The first thing, you start by installing it. Installing it um, in your command line. Um, all you need to do is type in this code in command line and run it. Now you already need PHP to be installed in your system. You can go to php.org to know how to install PHP on your system first before trying to do this. If the PHP that is associated with this is not installed with Kick PHP is not installed, they'll ask you to install it first before you know. Usually PHP from 5.0 and above is compatible with this. The next thing you do is to create a kind of CMS, like a skeleton, like an application skeleton in the CMS directory of the current working directory. So all you need to do, probably open the directory that you want using command line, then do the first thing we said, and then do this. That way it will create a kind of skeleton framework where you can later edit it to create your game. Once you do that, you are going to see this. This will load in config/app.php. The config is before the config, the URL is the location you loaded the command line. So you could learn more from this link that I dropped down here. Then the next thing you do is to work on the database. Now, let's say you have already designed the game and you know what you need, the data that you need. So you could use MariaDB then or any other database that is associated with Cake PHP. I think there's a list of it on their website. Then you can populate that database from what you have already predetermined in your game. That's if by this stage you should have designed your game. Then connect database in a separate configuration file. The normal configuration file, but you just simply need to link each table. Normal configuration file, not like you really need to link each table, more like the normal configuration file where you link the database to the PHP itself. There's a template of that configuration file on their website. At this point, we're almost the same. These are like uncharted waters. I just know the next steps, but I've not done completely the next step because I'm still working on my game. So the next steps are to create your first model, right? That's to model the game. I'm still at this point. Then create a CMS tutorial. I don't know what that is, but you get the full gist on Kick PHP. Then create the article list template, create the view action, create the view template. Then you add articles towards it. Those articles are more like the different concepts that you have in the game. And then you have your video game. Um, I'll be doing a second reboot of this by the time I'm done with producing a full video game using Cake PHP. And then I should be complete. I'm working on a a game that involves blackjack. I'm working on a blackjack game, and that blackjack game, more like static game, sounds and everything. So I'll be doing that while um, learning Cake PHP and doing the spin-off of this. We're going to see all my steps. But for now, you could code along and come into this aspect of PHP if you are so interested. So there's lots of money in it. Most people tend to use these games, and when they do so, they most of the times especially when you need more coins in order to proceed, or the lives are out and the person wants to just continue. There's an addiction kind of thing with it within there, kind of psychological thing. So they will tend to pay money in order to get it and stuff like that. Sometimes you could use different levels and keeps locks on different levels. When the person gets addicted, he pays in order to move to the next level. More like a drug thing. Yeah. And actually games do affect the same part of the brain that drugs do. All right, thank you.